Hello and welcome everybody to episode 9 of our semi-weekly, semi-recurring podcast. This is Sideline Specialists. I'm Tom Deasy. That's Alex Fishbein. We have
Hello.
we have a big slate for you this week of just a bunch of randomness. But that's why this is fun. That's why it's fun. That's why you guys watch. So, yeah, Alex, how we doing today?
I'm doing quite well. Had a nice weekend of just drinking and hanging out, and now kind of just, same old until next weekend when I jump on out to California. So, how have you
Busy. Uh,
been?
3 doubles in a row training at a new job, and this is like a day off that my legs needed quite badly. So,
I can only
yeah,
imagine.
I have been sat kind of in this chair quite literally all day. It's been great. But yeah, it's good. I'm happy about the new job. Um, I think it'll be a good fit, and my mental health will be a lot better.
Okay. I mean, that right there makes it worth it.
Oh yeah, big time.
But yeah, I'm jumping out to California for a little extended weekend to go celebrate Koye's 30th birthday.
Yes, sir.
Um, so that'll be a good time. I've never been to San Francisco or Oakland. Uh, our hotel's in Oakland, but we're flying into San Fran, so gonna check out
Okay.
some of the stuff there. We're checking out Napa Valley, so it'll be pretty cool. I'm excited.
So basically, what you're saying is the entire weekend from dawn to dusk into the evening, you will be drunk on Lavino.
Pretty much. I would be
Well,
surprised if there was more than like an hour or two that I wasn't drunk.
there you go. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. When you visit Napa Valley, drunkenness is default. There you
Exactly.
go. Oh boy.
But with that being said, we're not jumping into drunk people just yet, but we're going to talk about drunk people like Harrison Butker probably was.
Yeah.
Um, so
Boy.
we'll jump into NHL first because
Yeah.
I know you got that going on, and I will bring up the bracket as we usually do, and
Yep.
I will let you take that away.
So the NHL playoffs this year have been extremely fun. Like first round, there weren't too many series that really excited. To be honest, like Dallas Vegas was great, went 7 games. Florida destroying Tampa was expected. Boston Toronto, it went game 7, but we all know who's winning a game 7 if Toronto is involved, and it is not Toronto. Um, the Rangers obviously did away with the Capitals quite easily. Ran into a scary team in Carolina. At first, it looked like they were going to make it easy. Then it got difficult. And then in game 6, Chris Kreider decided, screw this. We're going to the conference final. So they're in. It's going to be Florida Rangers to get into the Stanley Cup final. I'm excited for that series. Genuinely, like great matchup. The physicality, aggressiveness, peskiness of these teams kind of on even levels. So I don't really have a prediction. I know I want Florida because I will never, ever, ever cheer for the Rangers to do anything. Um, like if it was Rangers Penguins, I just wouldn't watch the rest of the playoffs. That's how that would be. So,
I feel that.
and then over in the West, Dallas is the best team in the West, in my opinion, and it's not actually that close, especially with Vancouver losing Brock Besser for the remainder of this season. And then obviously you have Edmonton, whose top line has been horrifying. But outside of that, the only contributions they seem to be able to get are from Evan Bouchard, which he is not going to give you that every game. That's not his bread and butter. He is quite literally a defenseman. So if I have to predict it, it's going to be Edmonton, Dallas in the conference final, and I have Dallas winning that in no more than 6. Um,
Okay.
and I would actually be pretty stoked to see a Dallas Stars Florida Panthers final because let me correct myself if I am wrong. I believe, hold on. I need to look up like the 2021 Stanley Cup, or let me just do Stanley Cup finals. There was a weird one in one of those COVID years. And
okay.
Can't remember if these two teams actually matched up. They may have. So let me take a peek here. No. Okay, good. Yeah, because like, what year was this? Yeah, so 2021. Okay, so Dallas was in the final in 2020, the first COVID year. Mm-hmm. They lost to the Lightning. And then I think the next year, the Stars lost to the Canadiens in the weird... They like got rid of divisions and just made up new ones. Yeah, because like Tampa played Montreal in the Stanley Cup final, and they're both Eastern Conference teams when the season is normal. Yeah. But I would really like to see that final. I really would. I think for the NHL landscape, it would be great to have a team that's never won one, and then the Stars have only won one in their history. Like they beat the Sabres in like 2002 or something.
Okay.
So it would be nice. I want to see that. I want to see either a new Stanley Cup champion getting etched onto that trophy, or obviously Dallas. Like they have so many players on that team that have played a just ungodly amount of hockey games in the NHL, and they do not have a cup yet. Joe Pavelski being the top of that. He has like 1,600 games played. And then Jamie Benn, their captain, has like 1,500, and they have not raised the cup yet. So if there was a team that you could like cheer for individual players, the Stars are that team. And okay. I do think they have a very high probability of taking the cup home this year.
I'm trying to find a post that I saw because it talked about the last time, the amount of days between the last time each Dallas team has been in a conference championship. And the Mavericks and the Stars were both 0 days.
Yes.
The Rangers were, I think it was like less than 100.
Yeah, because it was just last November. What, right? Yeah. I mean, so yeah, it would be like 180 days-ish.
Yeah,
from
something
today.
Like that. And the Cowboys was like in the thousands.
Oh, well, yeah. Because it was 95. We were literally like not even a year old yet. And yeah. But that's the thing too, though. It's like I don't hate the Stars. The only team from Dallas I really don't like is the Cowboys, because it's like, to be brutally honest, like the NFC East's alignment and what teams are in that division, 3 of them make sense. Mm. And the Cowboys being in the NFC East when they're literally in the middle of the country will never make sense, but it's fine. Like
the NFL divisions, there's a lot of them that don't make any sense to me. Like the Dolphins, I know they're technically on the East Coast, but like, why aren't they in the NFC South?
Well, put them in the AFC South.
Or
right?
AFC South, yeah.
Because Jacksonville is in that, so you have 2 Florida teams just like that. And then you could do Jets and Bills still, because you just do 2 Florida, 2 New York, so then you look at it and you don't get confused. You can put the Pats in the NFC East. You could put Dallas somewhere else. Like, it would make more sense that way.
Right.
However, I don't mind it how it is now, simply because the rivalries are what they are. Like, they've developed for so long that it would fuck everything up if it changed. Your dogs are really upset at something.
Yeah, they're all the way downstairs too, so there must be something outside.
There's a leaf. There's probably a leaf that went by like the fucking window, and they're like, "Oh my god, it is actually an intruder. We must alert the family immediately." Ugh.
That'd be accurate. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, division setups around the many of the sports are pretty fucked up. Like, I mean, in the NBA, there's still like there's no reason that the Grizzlies are in the West.
Yeah,
Like,
like
makes zero sense.
we can consult a map and we will show you where Memphis, Tennessee is, and
Exactly.
it ain't the West. It's not it's almost not even the Midwest. Like it's
It's
um
pretty far east.
yeah, but I think the NHL actually, since we're just still on that, like their divisions are the most logical
Yeah, I think they
because,
are now too.
and even like the way they named it, like they weren't trying, like it's not, you know what I mean? So they have the Metropolitan, and that one does really contain most of the big city teams that
Right.
you would think of as like metropolitan areas. Like it's got both New Yorks, it has Pittsburgh, it has Philly, it has DC, it has Carolina. Like that makes sense, and that will always
Right.
make sense. And then the Atlantic, again, is totally fine. You have Tampa, Florida. Like I'm trying to go up the list here. You have basically all the Canadian teams and Boston. Like that's, and then you go to the Central, and the Central makes sense because it's just if you put like a circle around North America like this, right in the middle, contains most of them. Pacific has all the Cali teams, Seattle, and then obviously Vancouver, Edmonton. Like it fits, and
Right.
they used logic when they did this realignment with the expansion teams. They said, you
Right.
know what, we're bringing new teams in, we need to fix this, and the way they did it was great. Um, but the other sports could take a page out of that, I think.
Oh, 1,000%. They're like, especially like with the NFL, the rivalries, like you just said, they're set. So breaking up those rivalries wouldn't be beneficial for them. But in the NBA, like the Grizzlies rivalries, like nobody really cares. You
No,
can move them. The
they.
Pelicans, you can move them.
Yep. Yeah,
Like
I
there's
completely agree.
even like Oklahoma City now, like they used to be in, I think it was the Northwest because they used to be in Seattle.
Yeah,
So, like moving those types of things around, I think nobody would really mind. Um,
they're like an awkward one though, because they're like dead center of the country.
right,
So it's like for them, it's pick and choose, and since they were west already, it just makes sense to stay west. But like, if you had a team move from like Cali to like North Carolina, don't you dare leave them in the Western Conference.
right.
Like, don't fucking do that. That would make zero sense. But um, since we are now, at least touching on
Yep,
the
we can move
NBA
to
in
the
any
NBA.
capacity, I have the bracket open on my screen too, which is why I
Yeah,
look like I'm getting flashbanged into another dimension.
I know. I hate the fact that they don't let you use like a dark mode or anything.
Well, yeah, because if I do force dark page, I just can't see anything now. Like all the text goes away.
Right. Yeah,
I just see
exactly.
faded logos.
So for those of you that might not be keeping up with the NBA, we are now into the conference finals. The last game sevens were played yesterday. The Timberwolves beat the Nuggets in theirs, and the Pacers beat the Knicks in theirs. The Pacers, I mean, really took care of business pretty easily for the most part, especially because Jalen Brunson went down with a broken hand. So but the thing is too, we talk about teams coached by Tibbs getting broken down a lot because he is the man that will play them 40 plus minutes a game. And now he was doing a better job during the regular season to limit that amount of playing time. Like his guys, when he was with the Bulls, I think like three of the top seven players in minutes per game were on his team. So this year he did better in that regard. He was really rotating in a lot of different people. I mean, they also made trades and everything like that. So they had a bunch of movement in that rotation. Also with Julius Randle's injury and things like that, they had a lot of things going on. But then you get to the playoffs, and not only is every team tired from the regular season, but you ran Josh Hart. I think it was like 3 games in a row, or maybe just 3 games in total in the first 2 rounds. He literally did not sit a single minute.
I think it was actually 3 games straight, which
I
is
think
why
so
it
too. Yeah.
made such like headlines. Because that, and I'll give Josh the credit because part of that is him not wanting to leave the floor,
Right. Right.
and he was playing well enough or contributing well enough that him staying on the floor was always going to be a positive thing for the Knicks. But it's one of those, like, if you're Josh Hart now, you have to sit down, look back, and go, that probably wasn't brilliant, because the playoffs are a marathon, not a sprint. So it's great that you could do that for 3 games, but you're going to feel that because you don't get breaks really. And
Yeah.
and for them, it's like you went 6 games in the first round and you went to 7 in the second. And to be honest, the second round team has a lot more speed than the Sixers. You know what I mean? The Pacers are
Oh
like,
yeah.
so you were given all that, like all gas, no brakes, against the team you probably didn't need to do that against as much, if we're being honest.
Oh,
And
definitely.
like even in the game 7, because I have the stats for game 7 pulled up from that, if you don't mind me just like
Yeah, yeah.
rattle. The Pacers shot so unconscious in this game. I
Oh, it
have
was
never seen numbers like this in my life.
ridiculous.
From the field, as a team, they shot 67%. And then this number is even crazier to me. From 3, they shot 54.2% as a team.
Every single starter hit at least 1 3.
They had just great contributions from all the people that came on and had more than 10 minutes. Like even Toppin, right? He was 1 for 4 shooting, so you're like, he kind of didn't do anything. He was a +11
Yep.
because he came on and he played solid enough defense. He was moving, like creating space. TJ McConnell went absolutely berserk, hitting his 9-foot jump shots, because that is the most unstoppable shot in the NBA today. I will stand on that ledge by myself.
TJ is the Nick killer.
Just
He plays well against the Knicks no matter what team he's on, no matter what game it is, no matter if it's home, away, he just destroys the Knicks.
But I just love looking at the Pacers. Like, you got 20, 20, 19, 17, 26 from your starters. They all showed up to
Yep.
get the job done. And then you get an extra, let's do quick math, 28 points from your bench. And then you go down to the Knicks, and minus Alec Burks, and the only reason he played 27 minutes is because Brunson was limited. And
Right.
then you had Precious Achiuwa got 28 minutes because Anunoby only lasted 5, which definitely played a part in this, because he was 2 for 2, and we don't know if he had stayed in the game. If he could have stayed hot, it probably would have made a difference, if we're being real.
Right.
But then, like, you had Miles McBride play 40 minutes off the bench and go 0 for 6 from 3. Like, their depth was not there. And I mean, this is what it comes down to. You want to be a championship contender, you need depth.
And the crazy thing is, for the Pacers, other than Pascal Siakam, every other player on this team either has never been to the second round of the playoffs or hasn't gotten like any minutes in the second round of the playoffs. The only one that got there and just didn't play much was Aaron Nesmith, because he was on the Celtics.
Yeah. And like the only other one's TJ.
Yeah.
The only other one's McConnell. Like, that's it. But it's huge for them to have a guard like McConnell. It's like, I know he's a bench guy, but he's so reliable that, like, when it comes to bench comfort, bench calmness, that kind of thing, he can be a locker room leader 100%. Like, he's He's been on teams with like, I mean, he was, look at who he's played with, right? There's the picture of him hugging JJ Redick after the game, because it's like, the guy's been in the league for a long enough time now that I know the Pacers respect him, and you could hear
Oh
it in
yeah.
all their post-game interviews hyping him up, because, and he deserves it.
Yep.
He is one of the
1000%.
like hardest playing bench players in the league.
Oh yeah.
None of his minutes are wasted whatsoever. And to go into a game 7, he played 24 minutes and he was a plus 21 off the bench. I mean, speaks for itself. So
Insane. And crazy stat of the day. In his playoff career, which is through 35 games played in 4 different postseason runs,
yep.
he shoots 51% from the floor.
Dude, his like 10-ish footer jump turnaround fadeaway jump shot is the most flawless, easy shot I've like. There's players that have that like signature that just seems to always go in.
That's 1000% his.
And hit like it, and it's so smooth and so quick. Like I don't care who's guarding him, he puts it up in like 0.2 of a second. Like the defender can't even get his arm up before the ball's already over him. You're like, all right, dude, got it. I love it.
But just to touch on the other teams real quick. So the
Yeah.
Celtics, they still look pretty unstoppable. I mean, both series for them have gone 4-1, 4-1. The Cavs really turned into an easy matchup for them after Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell got hurt. And the funny thing to me was everyone was talking about the Pacers being like, oh, they're running into every team that gets hurt. That's why they made it through. And it's like, don't get me wrong, the Celtics are supposed to be here, but they also played the Heat without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier. And then they played the Cavs without Jared Allen, without Donovan Mitchell. So the Celtics have been getting pretty easy series with these injuries as well. So we can't discount that.
Yeah. I think the Pacers are going to give them work. I really do.
I think it'll be a tight game. I think the Celtics will probably win in 6.
Well, Porzingis might be out for the first 3, which is a big deal.
True. True.
Like that's a lot of size to lose, which and in this matchup the size is a big deal because like to be real, the Pacers don't have that much size. Right. They have experience. They're playing well, they're playing really cohesive. Like, I'm not going to say it's out of this world for the Pacers to win this series. I'm not. I think it's actually very much in the realm of possibility, but they have to play so well every single game that's why it's just the odds are obviously not for that.
The big thing for them is they need to get it together on the road. Like, they had a great road game, obviously, to win Game 7.
Yeah.
But we're not going to like discount the fact that like, yeah, Brunson getting hurt is a big part of that game. But also like the big thing with the Pacers is like their record where it's like, if they score 130 or more, they're like undefeated. They're like 20-0 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And then if they score under 120, then they're like, their record is terrible.
Yeah. But I look at that, like, and here's another thing to take into account, right? For whatever reason, playing at Boston Garden, there is some mythical presence that just doesn't let the Celtics lose. It's always been that way. Like MSG, I know that's a tough place, but it's not even the same stratosphere. It's not at all.
Especially in the postseason.
Exactly. So like they're gonna be playing these tough first 2 road games. They have to find a way to win one of these and then go back home and make it happen. Like if they can get a series lead somehow at any point in this, they have to just go. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's completely tough. But I'm glad that that's the matchup because I think this should be pretty fun.
Yeah, because I mean, Boston's home record this year was 37-4.
Yeah, which I mean, holy moly.
Yeah, and Indiana's away record was 21-20. So,
and this is when you got to change that, like change how it happens. You know what I mean? Like they can't they have to ignore that as a team. Like in the playoffs, they've only won what, 2 road games? They won one against the Bucks in game 2 of that
Yep.
series, and
And one against
then
the Knicks.
obviously game 7 in against the Knicks. So like they've won the biggest one they've had. To be
True.
fair, they played the best they've played with that one as well. So it's like they just need the contributions from their stars, and then they need the bench to play out of their skulls, like they desperately, because Boston's depth is why they are who they are. So
Exactly. And they're going to need to throw a bunch of defensive rotations because they were one of the worst defenses in the entire league this year. Like,
yes,
there was only 2 other teams that gave up more points than them, and it was the Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards.
and both of
That's it.
those teams are hot garbage. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Neither of them even sniffed the playoffs. So
like
they have to at least limit a couple of those guys on the other side. It's like
yeah,
you said, it's big that Porzingis isn't there because that's one big offensive firepower missing. But you still have Tatum, Brown, White, and Holiday that
yeah,
can all go for 30 if they wanted to.
and Horford, as much as Horford's old, he is
True.
such a quality player. He's that veteran that just seems to get shit done. Like you're not relying on him for scoring, but that, like, all credit to Al Horford. That guy just plays solid fundamental basketball. So
Yeah. And
like
he had a
that's
game this season where he hit 7 threes. So
yeah.
like
Um, going over to the West.
yes.
This is I'm
This is
excited.
gonna be fun.
I'm so fucking excited right now. Anthony
This one's gonna
Edwards
be very fun.
and Karl Anthony Towns versus Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And
Yeah.
the rest, both of these teams that, like, I love everybody on these teams. This is just I I want the T-Wolves because as a franchise they just have not, like, actually won anything, but
Right.
I will be happy to see these games, and I want a 7-game series because I want to watch this matchup 7 times. I
Oh
just
yeah.
that's what
It'll
I
be
want.
amazing. It'll definitely be amazing. And I like Anthony Edwards for those it annoyed me that a bunch of people tried to like take his quote the wrong way when he was talking about game 7 and he said that he had Jamal Murray and clamps. People were like, "Well, Jamal scored 30 some points and you shot like 6 for 24 or whatever." And it was like the people saying that obviously didn't watch the game because Anthony Edwards covered Jamal Murray in the second half. And when he covered him in the second half, he did not have all 30 of those points against Anthony Edwards. He played terribly against Edwards, but he was putting all those points on Jaden McDaniels and the others defending him in the first half. So there's a big difference in that regard. And Anthony Edwards already talked about the fact like his matchup is going to be Kyrie Irving and he wants to see what he can do on defense. You don't see the best player on any team talking about, "Oh, I can't wait to see like how I defend this guy." That just is not a thing in the current NBA. And that's what makes me like Anthony Edwards is just like he doesn't care what like the prototypical star is. He doesn't care what like people think of him. He doesn't care like the whole like, mainstream type of NBA player. He's just like this man loves basketball and he loves defense as much as he loves scoring buckets on offense. And it's
Yeah,
so fun to watch.
agreed. And I
But
like he's a guy, he just wants to win, and
yes,
he will play to win. It's not and like, yes, there are flashy moments within games. He hits the crazy poster dunks and stares down people, but he's trying to live in your head. He's trying to win a game any way he can, and if that's getting you off your game, he'll do it. If that's just being better, he'll do it. He wants to play two-way full court basketball because he understands if you want to win championships, you have to be good at everything, and you can see him putting in effort everywhere. And
exactly.
that's why I love watching the T-Wolves. And it is crazy too, because the Gobert trade got all that hate, and I know he looked kind of not great in the 3-game losing streak they had. But that's just like, it's the Nuggets, right? Like, we knew they were going to find something that was going to work, and Jokic is Jokic, so it's like if someone's going to get made to look bad, it'll probably be Gobert. And then in games 6 and 7, they switch to having Karl Anthony Towns as the primary defender for Jokic, and it looked better. Especially in game 6, it looked really good. But I just think the Timberwolves have this very interesting blend of size, speed, and scoring ability that makes them like they're the team with the best lineup left in the playoffs, in my opinion, to beat Boston.
Yeah,
because they have the best range of like size, speed, defenders. Their bench is solid. So I like that's why like if I wanted to see if Boston's going to make the finals, which we would have to expect, as much as I would love to see Indiana like pull an upset, I would want the T-Wolves to get there because I think they would have a much higher chance than the Mavs would. But Kyrie in the finals is a different breed. So I mean, you never know. But whatever happens, this has been a fun postseason. There's definitely been some unexpecteds. So
definitely, I love this postseason so far.
Yeah, we have a 6. We have a 6 in a conference finals against a 1 and a 5 and a 3 on the other side. Like this is great for basketball. It means that you made the postseason and teams are making the most of it. Your seed is irrelevant, and I love that. The worst postseasons ever are the ones where it's all the 1s and 2s find a way to get there, and you're like, I mean, I don't want the expected. The same like it's like same with March Madness, right? Like you never want it to just be like all the 1s in the Final Four. You're like, that's not why we're here.
Right. No one is really cheering for the favorites other than like those fans that were already fans.
Yeah. And all the alum and you know what I mean? Like that's their school. But like when I'm watching, it's like if I'll cheer for Villanova, and if Temple makes a tournament, I'll cheer for them. Anybody from the just greater Philly area, I'll pull for. But if it's outside of that, I'm like, oh, Richmond's playing Arizona. Let's go Richmond. Like, let's go.
I just wanted to share this real quick because we were talking about it real quick before we started the stream. But I took this as like being a real sore loser with Michael Malone. And here's the interview that went down right post game. We'll just play it real quick here for those that might not have heard it.
Defensively for you guys after you went up 20 in the second half?
Our offense.
Did you feel like there was anything that you guys got away from offensively in that stretch after you reached that point?
I'll have to go back and watch the film.
How hard is it just to absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20?
Stop saying that.
The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid ass questions.
They're not really that stupid, Mr. Malone.
No. You were up 20 points.
They're putting you on the spot because you are the defending champs in your house. You were ahead by 20 against the team that out of the last 4 games you won 3 times against and shit the bed. Let's be Chris. It was a complete breakdown on both sides. And him getting mad at a reporter is just really childish, to be honest.
Right.
Like, I get it because he's emotional and I can accept that. Like, he's upset for his team and his guys. So the questions are pushing those buttons.
Right.
However, you are a professional, right? And to just blatantly say stupid ass questions. No, they're honest questions. And I get why they're being asked because, like, there are expectations for you. The highest expectations were on the Nuggets because they're defending champs.
Exactly.
So you have to be ready for these to come your way after a game 7 goes like that.
Yep.
Like if this is in Minnesota, it's not as big a deal because you know what I mean? It's their crowd, their energy. You had your crowd and your energy on your floor. What happened? I know he's not going to have an answer now, so I get why he could be like upset, because it's like he needs to watch the film and he does need to see how everything broke down in frame to frame to really fully understand. But you're the guy who's managing the floor, like who's on it, what the defensive matchups are. So you have to just take that on the chin. You're going to get questions like this, and you need to be just, as an adult, be ready for it, because people want to know, like, why did this go so wrong? We were happily chilling, watching our team looking like they were going to make the conference finals again, and now we don't get to watch the Nuggets until next season. So I get it.
Yeah. And to like put the icing on the cake, he talked a bunch of shit about the Lakers. He talked a bunch of shit just about everybody. And they're like, oh, how come the media doesn't talk about us and all that last year? And then at the championship parade, talking about, oh, we're a dynasty, dynasty this, dynasty that. So all of that building up to here, and now you can't answer a simple question of what happened when you were up 20.
Yeah, without crying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact that you heard the Timberwolves celebrating in the background just made it even better.
Here, I'll just hold this up. That's what I say to that right there.
Oh, there you go.
Fucking idiot. Like, it's just, I'm sorry, but there are professional coaches in the NBA that when a game goes wrong, they will take it on the chin. They will be responsible for things. They're not afraid. They don't shy away from taking ownership of what happened, because that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you can't blame it on players. The fact that he literally answered that by saying our offense, it's like, okay, then you needed to make changes.
Right.
Like, you're saying you had a 20-point lead. When that cut to 10, it should have been like timeout on that possession, 2 guys come in, change the energy, and then if it keeps going worse, then keep changing it. Like, throw the T-Wolves off by what you're doing. Instead, you're just like, it was the offense's fault. It's just, yeah, they couldn't, no one could score and blah. It's like, there's things you could have done as a coach.
Exactly.
He pulled all the cards out of the Doc Rivers playbook, which he should have known is a losing playbook. And it's not a good look. And that's a shame, because we were all happy for the Nuggets to get a championship.
Exactly.
But none of us were happy because it was Michael Malone coaching. We were happy because Joker is top 3 player in the world, and he deserved it. So to then, in this position, blame the player, it's like, who are you, dude? Like, actually, who are you? I mean, it's, yeah, right. That bothers me.
No, it's just showing to be a sore loser like that when you are the defending champs and you have all the expectations just makes everything
exactly
worse.
And that's why it's like, we need to see growth out of him for that, because that's just not really acceptable. I think, am I able to share pages too, because I'm part of this?
I think so, yes.
All right, I will go. I'm going to bring up MLB.
Okay.
Bye-bye. There it is. Hell yes. All right.
I will just say,
yeah, fire away.
Phillies are fucking awesome. They've been outstanding, even with guys hurt, even when they change up the fielders and the lineup like pretty drastically in some games. They have still looked outstanding. And the pitching staff, especially the starting pitching staff, continues to just be ridiculous. Yeah. I forget what they were at when we did our last episode, but they are currently at plus 80 run differential.
Yeah.
Which is just insane. They've given up the second fewest amount of runs in the division, with the Braves giving up less, only because the Braves have played like 6 fewer games, something like that, which I don't understand how they've played so many less. But
yeah, I don't either, because I kept seeing that and I'm like, how do they have 5 games in hand? Like, what did they get a week off? Like,
right. Like, the Phillies are 34-14 and the Braves are 26-17. Like,
yeah, it's like they've played 43, we've played 48. I'm like, where the fuck were they?
Exactly.
Like,
And
yeah,
the other big topic of the MLB that I thought was interesting that has happened so far, Edwin Diaz.
he has been garbage, and I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to look dead in the camera. He was on my fantasy team until today. He gone. So, yeah, fuck your trumpets. I hate the Mets. I wanted to give you a chance, even though I hate the Mets. Your trumpets are broken and in complete and utter disrepair, and that is a shame. But
it's crazy that he just went from like looking like one of the top closers in the game, didn't play due to an injury last year, and now just like horrid.
But it is one of those cases.
That man on the field.
It is one of those cases, and I'll say this too, to just like not sound like a complete dickhead. I am never happy when any quality player in any sport gets injured, as long as they seem like a decent person. Like if they're a piece of shit, then I'm like, all right, you kind of karma caught up. But his injury has clearly affected his ability to like actually play, and that is a shame for baseball. And in that sense, I am very sorry. I feel very bad because this is like it's his like livelihood. You know what I mean? Like that sucks, and I hope he can find his way back to being consistent, like at a level where he's happy. Yeah. But obviously that won't be this year, but it is crazy. Like the drop off is crazy because you do see some guys come back from an injury and still succeed. I mean, like Ohtani's been hurt a couple times, and he's just casually hitting 353 right now. Still, by the way, so that's just like ridiculous. But I have ESPN's MLB like league leaders page open on this. I'm just gonna rattle some things off. First in wins, Ranger Suarez. Third in wins, Aaron Nola. So that's 2 in the top 3 for the Phillies in a key stat. Earned run average, Ranger Suarez is second, only to Shota Imanaga, who is pitching out of his fucking mind. We're 2/3 of the way through May, and Shota Imanaga quite literally has a .84 ERA.
Ridiculous. Absolutely
insane. Super awesome for that. We'll go to runs batted in. Tied for first with Marcell Ozuna is Alec Boehm. We'll go to strikeouts. In fourth is Zach Wheeler. We will go down to quality starts. Tied for second, really, with 7, Zach Wheeler. And then here I'm going to throw this one in there because I saw this yesterday and I could not stop laughing. Cody Clemens has appeared in 11 games for the Phillies this year. Ronald Acuna has appeared in all games for the Braves this year. They have the same amount of home runs.
Cody Clemens is the man. He has been awesome.
I don't know what has occurred in Ronald Acuna Jr.'s offseason to go from MVP, like unanimous almost MVP, to hitting 253 and only 12 RBIs this deep into this season. But this fall off needs to be deeply analyzed because his batting average right now, quick math, is 84 points lower.
Damn.
Like last year, let's see, he had 73 stolen bases last year in 159 games. At this exact moment, if I just multiply this by like 3.5, he's only on pace for like 50. So that's 23 less, which is ridiculous. His OPS is 300 points lower.
Jesus.
and we're 42 games in. He had 84 strikeouts all of last season. He's already at 48, basically a quarter of the way through the season. He's going to like double his strikeout count. Like something happened for a guy to go from 40, like he had 41 home runs. He's on pace for like 11. What happened?
And his WAR is only at a 0.2. He finished last year with an 8.1, which is
yeah, an 8.1 WAR for a season for anybody watching is insane. like truly, like generationally insane. Like that will happen once a season from somebody. Like that's an insane number. Yeah, like let me, you know what, just for reference, I'm gonna look up. I want to see if they have all his stats on here. Yeah, so Derek Jeter, we're gonna reference the great Derek Jeter. Never had a WAR above 8, ever. Derek
Damn.
Jeter. Highest he ever had in his career was 7.8, and that was in 1999. And he never got a 7 again. His next highest, unfortunately for the Phillies, was in 2009 when they won the World Series. But that's like I just noticed this. I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, that's why
Yikes.
that's a big part of the Braves like lack of success. Strider's out, so that's huge. Acuna is not performing up to the level he is expected to perform at. Will he find a groove at some point? Possibly, because I think he is actually that good of a player.
Right.
But at the moment, the Phillies are just kind of owning the NL East, which is just amazing. We can actually just scroll this down here so we can see that. I will highlight right across all this beautifulness right here. Their next matchup, of course, is the defending World Series champion Texas Rangers, but they look like nothing right now.
Yeah, which is odd.
That division, for whatever reason, has just been very strange. As we can see here, they are 500 through 48 games. The Mariners currently hold the lead in that division. But truth be told, that is probably the weakest division in baseball.
By the way, your camera went off, but I can still hear you.
Yeah, see. Hold on, let me... Huh.
While Tom takes care of that, I will say that I've been diving a little bit more into some of the nitty-gritty of baseball. And I mean, the Dodgers, we've talked about before. We know what the Dodgers are supposed to be. We know what like they give you with the amount of players coming in. So it's very like it's very much in the NL a race, it seems, between the Dodgers and the Phillies. That's like really what it feels like it's coming down to, especially because when you look at the other divisions, you look at people like, you know, the only other team close to them in terms of win percentages are the Braves, who would technically be in third in the NL. And then you have the looks like your video's trying to come back up. And the Brewers would be after the Braves there. They're at 27 and 19. Braves are 26 and 17, but the Dodgers and Phillies are at 32 and 17 and 34 and 14. So it very much is a big race. And I want to say, like, you know, with the Phillies, I just want to see them play more teams that are like in the upper echelon of baseball, because right now these teams, just a lot of the teams they played are really not that great, and they're still taking care of business, which is what you need to do against bad teams. Don't get me wrong, you can lose to bad teams and then everything goes out the door. But right now on the MLB standings, you can see in the team in the record against teams greater than 500, the Phillies have the lowest amount of games in there by far. They've only played 6 games in teams over 500, and they're 4-2 in those games. So I mean, they still have a winning record in that area, but there's still plenty to be seen from them against these upper teams. So that would be the next thing for them that I'm looking for. And then you go into the AL, and we all know the Yankees are showing to be very good. I mean, that was another thing that was expected, but the Orioles, another team that we've seen starting to really improve, and their young guys are all rallying together. The Rays, the Rays are what they are. Tom, I'm sure, is restarting his computer, so I'll bring up the standings here. And then we get to like the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. There's been a lot of talk around the Blue Jays and what they're supposed to do with the team they have now, and we're just not sure what's going on with them. So it's just kind of a wait and see. They're a negative 40 run differential right now. They're 21-25. They are 5-5 in their last 10. And their games against teams over 500 isn't completely terrible. I mean, they're 16-20 against those teams. So it's not something that's like, really going to make you, I should say, like, think that they're going to be some sort of cellar dweller all the time. So there's a lot to be said from there. We know the White Sox are terrible. The rest of the teams in that AL Central are actually all positive in run differentials. So that should be interesting as time goes on for them. The Guardians and the Royals are easily the better ones in the division so far. However, the Twins were up there for a little bit, and now they've been 3-7 in their last 10. So they're actually on a 6-game losing streak as we speak. So they have the talent and the ability to get back on track. It's just a matter of if they do or not. The Tigers, I like them from time to time, but they're just, I don't know. They're just not consistent enough for me. And then you get to the AL West. I think that's what Tom was talking about right before he started having some technical issues. But yeah, the AL West just is not great. I mean, the Mariners are in first at 25-22. Then the Rangers are 24-24. The Astros, they're 8-2 in their last 10, but their overall record is still only 21-26. Against teams over 500, the Astros are 12-23. That's not going to get you very far, and it especially isn't going to help against playoff teams if that's how you're playing most of the time. Their home record is finally at 500 now. Their away record is still 8-13, so there's a lot to be seen from the Astros. I think I saw a couple pictures of theirs. I think went to the IR. I'd have to check that. But the A's and the Angels, both terrible. The Angels just look like they're just literally falling apart in front of our eyes. And I don't see really any end in sight. So that is what that is there. So that's the baseball update for now. So I just want to touch on real quick, actually, the WNBA while Tom still figures out his issues. So for those who might be new here, we're touching on every sport. We literally watch everything. The WNBA is super hot right now. I'm glad that people are finally starting to watch more. WNBA has been something that I've watched for years now, and it's been just nice to see high-level basketball throughout the summer when we don't have NBA, when we don't have college basketball and everything. And this league is just so entertaining in terms of the fact that I think I saw someone bring up that this is one of the hardest leagues to make a team and actually like in terms of percentages throughout all of the major sports, because there are only 12 teams in this league. And we have seen draft picks, first round, second round, whatever round you want to say, have gotten cut from these teams before they even play a single game in their rookie year. And you don't see many first round draft picks get cut in the NBA. You definitely don't see first round draft picks getting cut in like the NFL or the NHL. The MLB, you can see all different sorts of things in terms of draft picks because Lord knows what's going on with like the 20 something rounds of their draft and all the farm systems and everything with them. So percentage wise, with this few amount of teams, few amount of players per every team, they actually statistically, this is one of the hardest leagues to actually get minutes for out of any sport. With that being said, obviously Caitlin Clark is the big draw. I mean, everybody knew that Caitlin Clark was going to be the, the attention grabber,
All right.
the everything.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you yet.
All right. I don't know what happened to my camera, if it overheated or if something strange happened, but I literally like took my headphones off, and it was like crackling.
Oh,
like actually making a noise on its own. And I'm like, that's not how that works. So for the rest of this podcast, you are all spared of my hideous face. Yeah. And yeah.
That's all right. At least the people who listen to audio, nothing changes for them.
True, but I'm just so confused.
Yeah, the fact that it was crackling.
This thing's worked great for like everything, all the videos and everything like that. And then today, randomly, it just decided to be like, nah, it's time. It's time to just, for some reason, not function.
It's always when we record an episode that something on your PC's like, nah, not today.
Like, I hope it works again at some point, because what the heck, but
yes,
I just don't understand what happened there at all.
No clue.
So,
but I was just touching on a WNBA update real quick. Caitlin Clark she dropped 20 points in her first game, but also had 10 turnovers. A lot of people, I feel like the ones that especially were huge Caitlin Clark, just like is going to come in the league and just drop 40 every night and everything. There was a lot of people that just expected Caitlin Clark to just absolutely take over right away in her rookie season. And I have to remind people, there is only one woman that has won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season in the WNBA, and that's Candace Parker.
Yeah.
And the people that don't watch WNBA all that often, Candace Parker was literally like LeBron James coming into the WNBA. Like, she was the one. And she looked every bit like the one. And I just want to give you some stats to Candace Parker's debut game, because it is just ridiculous. Her regular season debut as a rookie in 2008, Candace Parker scored 34 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists, and beat the reigning champion Phoenix Mercury 99-94 in her first ever WNBA game.
Yeah.
Like, that is just unheard of. And the fact that, like, I watched a lot of things on social media, read a lot of things on social media where people were just like, oh, like, Caitlin Clark can do that, and Caitlin Clark can do this and break this record and break that record. Don't get me wrong. I love Caitlin Clark, and I think she is tremendous for the women's sport.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to pump the brakes a little. Like, let her have her rookie year. Let her do her thing. Stop saying like she's going to be Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Give her time. That's my main thing. I will say, as of right now, the Fever are actually beating the Connecticut Sun 70-68 with a little over 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So they might get their first win tonight. In for their sake, I hope so, because that would be great for them to finally get that first win under their belt and, just move forward with that. But it is like that time of year where everyone is just going way too crazy for this type of stuff and need to just give it some time. Like even right now with them winning, she has 13 points. She's shooting 4 of 10. Not terrible, but 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 3 turnovers. So she's doing pretty well, especially for a rookie. And I just want everyone to check out, like, go watch some New York Liberty, go watch some Las Vegas Aces, the Connecticut Sun, who have played the Fever. Now this is their second time. They have one of the best defenses in the entire WNBA. And that's why we saw Caitlin Clark, turn the ball over 10 times in her first game. The Minnesota Lynx have been much improved. The Phoenix Mercury are still, like, Diana Taurasi is still fucking playing. She's 40, I think she is now. And she's one of the greatest to ever play the game. Like, watch some of them as well. And then you even got Angel Reese doing pretty well with the Chicago Sky. Cameron Brink is doing pretty well for the Sparks. Like, some of these rookies are playing extremely well so far, and it's just been great to watch. But the crash course right now for the WNBA Finals is, again, the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces. And those two teams are just ridiculously fun to watch and ridiculously talented. So I just hope more people, don't get me wrong, watch Caitlin Clark, but do yourself a favor and watch the others too. That's all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But we can move into some football.
Okay. I'm just gonna unplug the fuck out of this webcam as a whole and try and figure out what the fuck is the problem later.
Yeah, I feel you.
Let me find if I can find the correct plug here.
So we have some quick hitter topics, and then we'll get into we'll probably do the prediction of the Eagles and Ravens record after this one, and then the best signings. But so we won't run too long for you guys out there. So the Chiefs. I don't know what's happening in Kansas City.
Here, I can we're gonna bring this up. So right here we got obviously not great, not a good look. So not only does he get in the vehicular crashes, right? Then he's like, I'm gonna punch the shit out of some dude at a club because I want more pictures. And then you're like, oh, the Chiefs offseason couldn't possibly get much worse than that, could it? Incorrect. So we're going to jump over here. This just happened literally 2 days ago. I mean, it's marijuana possession, so I'm kind of sitting here going like, did they really do anything that horrible? Not really.
For those listening, it's 2 of the offensive linemen from the Chiefs.
Yeah. Juan Morris and I'm going to call him Chewbacca because that's what the fuck that looks like. And it's not great, obviously.
It's just the timing.
Yeah, because then on top of that, we obviously have the freaking, oh my god, Harrison Butker.
Good old Harrison Butker.
We'll bring his stupid face up. Let's get this ad blocker crap out of here. Look at this guy. Thinks he's a Chad. Forgot he's a kicker. Said some BS about women, but
I just want to say I am never a fan of, unless it's like very harmful, hateful speech. I'm not a fan of like getting someone fired for just like, for speaking like their opinions. So the people that are trying to like put out a petition to get him fired from the NFL, I think that is a little extreme. It's not like he's Rashee Rice. Like, let's not forget about the stuff that Rice did, and he's still participating in OTAs.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
That's crazy. What Butker said was definitely wrong. His opinion is garbage, but we have to also remind ourselves we do live in a country where freedom of speech is a thing. So while he's entitled to his own shitty opinions. That doesn't mean anyone has to agree with him. And on top of that, he deserves all the heat he's getting for it. Not asking him to be fired, but he deserves the heat for it because talking to now, I get it that he's like an extreme Catholic talking at an extreme Catholic university in front of a bunch of extreme Catholics. So that whole world is different. However, it's just comes off incredibly tone deaf that you're talking to a bunch of women graduating college and telling them your life doesn't start until you have a family. And it's not like, oh, like don't chase promotions and titles because you should just be like doing your household duties. That is just insane. Like
That's a ridiculous thing to say. Yeah.
Insane. And my thing too is, what about all the women that can't have kids? Like biologically cannot have kids. What about all the ones that, you know, are scarred from like the whole family situation, or were in situations where they were the house, like doing all the household stuff, and then something happened with like the man being abusive or anything along those lines. You're just telling them all to essentially go fuck themselves.
Yep.
Like it is insane to me that he really wrote this speech, or someone wrote it for him, and he said, "Yep, sounds good. I think this is the one." It just I and then they showed that he went to some like manly convention thing for like quote unquote alpha males, and I'm like, guy,
Oh God.
you're a kicker.
No, you know what someone said. Someone said about him, and I was like, yeah, that kind of nails it. They were like, yeah, this is a guy that clearly watched way too much Andrew Tate.
Yes.
And has just embodied everything that absolute piece of dog shit has been selling and spreading. I mean, and yeah, him getting arrested, by the way, not shocking.
Oh, no, not at all.
But I heard that and I was like, yeah, that's accurate. I'm with that. That fits what's going down. Yeah. And it is a shame because it's like, we don't need anybody out here spreading this kind of shit, ever.
Right.
And especially like, if you look at the Chiefs were on this high, right? I mean, like you had the T Swift, Travis Kelce thing, bringing all these eyes. Everything was good because they are not toxic together, right, which is awesome. It was all positive. And then as soon as the offseason hit, it's just like one domino after another. So I'm sitting here going, what are we going to get next week? Like, Andy Reid going on some fucking rant about some, like, what is happening? And it's,
don't know.
And this one just like, it's just so out of left field. Like, where the fuck did this come from?
This is the biggest head scratch. Even if like you agreed to do this, just don't tell people not to record it. Don't put a video out. Like
literally.
Like, who okayed posting a video and saying like, yeah, I think a lot of people will agree with this. Like,
I'm like a dog in what? Yeah, literally, like what in what universe? Not now. Like if this was 20 years ago, this shit would be getting like ranted and raved about in a positive light. I feel like, and that's sad, but probably true. And then now it's just like things have changed, man. Like
big time.
Social media, everything is going to eat this alive. They're going to eat you alive. So,
and my two favorite things: one, he's going to all these alpha male things and talking about being an alpha male and all this kind of stuff, whereas you're the least alpha male position on the entire fucking team, and
literally,
all these other guys in the NFL are alpha males, and they don't have to go to stupid ass alpha male conventions or talk about how the woman has to do XYZ. A lot of these guys in the NFL actually have wives that have their own businesses and do their own like
Yep.
side jobs or just have their own job in general.
Can I rip 2 off right here?
Yeah, go for it.
Kyle Juszczyk's wife with her badass clothing line.
Yep.
Go tell her that she needs to go and do some shit. And then the second one, Julie Ertz, U.S. women's national team soccer player, who is better at what she does in a lot of ways than Ertz has been at what he does in the NFL, to be brutally honest. Go tell her to just stay the fuck home. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you're a kicker. We've discussed this. I could picture you with your legs behind your head getting railed way more than a lot of these other guys. Like, shut your mouth, stay in your lane, which is the slow lane for pussies in a sport that's filled with actual men. I don't care how much you fucking, like, the picture we have up on the screen, I don't care how much you make your beard look great and your hair look great. You're jack shit.
Yep.
You're so replaceable too. It's unbelievable. Like,
and also
stop.
Go tell Taylor Swift that.
Literally, like all this hype and all these eyes and all this merch and everything that's been sold for your team in the NFL because of a woman who is the best at her job on the planet by
He makes
far.
500 times more money than he does.
And it's not even like, let's forget the money. It's who she is as a person that has gotten her this success.
Exactly.
She's so nice and like to everybody and respects everybody and tries to uplift people. And then you're over here like, get back in the kitchen, make me a sandwich, bitch. Like, dude, we have moved on from that for like decades now. Like, there are women on this planet. There are women on this planet who are so much more badass than men are. Like, it's just.
And the last thing I'll say is the one thing I read about how, I don't know how he's talking when the one position that women play when they play football is his same position.
Yeah, and so I saw a post that was literally someone remind Harrison Butker that when he sees women playing football, it's the same position as him. Like,
exactly.
You are literally in the position that women are going to get in the NFL for first. Yep. It's coming, and I'm pumped for the day that happens. I just hope they're ready to get hit. But like, it's brutal.
So let's move on to the Eagles and the Ravens records, and I'll bring up the Eagles schedule first.
Okay.
I
can stop sharing here so that you can go ahead and do a thing.
Yep, I have that coming.
You like my little avatar, by the way?
Yeah, that's great.
This dude. I need to find his page and give him credit for his comics, but he makes these comics with birds, and this one, I use this as a phone background for like 2 years. Just makes me laugh.
That's amazing.
It's just yeah.
So the Eagles schedule. This is the first 3 weeks. I think we both are pretty much in agreement that this is probably 3 wins. For those listening that can't see our screen, we have week 1 at Green Bay, which is in Brazil. And then there's week 2 against Atlanta, which is a home game in Philly. And then
here's the key.
At New Orleans in week 3.
Here's the key to the Atlanta game. Mm-hmm. Kirk Cousins is the quarterback, and it is on Monday Night Football, which means
prime time Kirk.
He cannot win. So I made a graphic, which I just thought, like, I don't know if I can. Let me see if it's actually possible to share this. No. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think it is.
You could upload it to the overlay section if it's an image. You can do add overlay and then just.
Oh, is that in settings?
It's in brand. The brand tab.
Oh, hello.
Let
me try this. Let me see if I can get this to happen here.
Yep, I just saw it pop up.
Boom. So
There we go.
So this is my prediction, and you have to know I'm an Eagles fan. So like there's a little bias, and I'll fully own that. But I have to just like be honest here. Like I think they could lose to Cleveland because Cleveland's defense is just great. I know it's a home game, but they blitz a lot, and in like last year, the thing that Hurts struggled the most against was blitzes. Like clear as day, that was his biggest weakness. I think they're going to get revenge on the Bucks because they won it so bad. So that's the Week 4 game. They have an early bye in Week 5. I think, and I know we never lose out of buys, but I think this might be the breaking of that streak right here. I genuinely do.
Okay.
I have to assume they're going to lose games like that. No one, you know what I mean? I can't be that crazy of an Eagles fan. I think they beat the Giants just because it's the Giants. And obviously, like they need revenge for that last year because I do believe they did lose one of those games. But like, it kills me too because like Cincinnati's going to be a tough game. That's in Cincy, but I don't know what they're going to look like now, at all. And I think the Eagles' offense, as long as they stay healthy, is so loaded. It's just like a joke. And then the defense got better. Like that's why this Eagles team feels crazy. It's like they just. All the positions in need, they filled them. And now you're looking at it like, where are the holes? Like they went out and drafted the top 2 corners on a lot of draft boards. They got both. And like the other guy that could be debated is Terrion Arnold, which fine, because he's great too. But it's like you're going to have less trouble covering guys. Your defensive scheme's going to be better. Safety was a weakness, so you bring Gardner Johnson back. Like, what the heck? Are you struggling to see it?
Yeah, the W's and L's were just blending in a little on my screen, but I'm just looking while you're talking.
Like the losses I have for the Eagles are to the Ravens and the Browns. I think they beat Dallas both times because I don't like their running game just got so much worse because it's like you are kidding yourselves if you think Zeke is going to come back and do well enough for you as to make your offense complete. It isn't. And
both Washington and New York are they're young, they're inexperienced, they're just not
like. But this is why I was like, let me bring this up because I want to say there are games that could 100% go the other way. I do think Washington improved drastically, genuinely like crazy. They went nuts in free agency. They had a really good draft. They could 100% they could win that Week 16 game against the Eagles. 100% they could win the Thursday night game.
Right.
They have talent. And if the system works for the rookies, obviously Jaden Daniels is going to come in there and completely change the way this football team plays. The Eagles could 100% go like 13-4, 15-2. That's the window for me because I look at what they did, and if health is not an issue, I think they have that level of potential.
My 2 games that were flipping back and forth on for the Eagles were the Bengals and the Steelers. I agree with pretty much the rest of it. I do think they're going to lose at least one divisional game.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying
whoever it is.
Like the Dallas road game is possible. The Washington games are possible. Week 18, if the Eagles have clinched already or something, you know what I mean? And they're playing nobodies, like then that one, it's just like whatever. But I think they just, on paper, this team is better than the 2022 Super Bowl team.
I could see it. My main thing is we don't know what the Bengals are going to be like with Joe Burrow. We don't know what's happening with T. Higgins. So there's a lot of question marks with that Bengals team that definitely could be a lot different. And then the Steelers, you just never fucking know the Steelers lately. The Steelers are the other health team, right? Right. They have some of the most talented defensive players on earth. They have a coach who literally just knows how to win, but their QB situation is the part that makes everybody just kind of curious because by week 15, who the hell knows who is going to be the QB for the Pittsburgh Steelers? And that's kind of where I agree. Like, there are coin flips on this. I'm just going with optimism and hope in my team.
but being honest about matchups I don't think are good for them, and that's 100% the Browns defense, because their defense was top 3, and all they did was add to it. They didn't really lose much. And then the Ravens were they're just an excellent team, and that's in Baltimore. I have to assume that the Ravens win that. I really do. And because of that, we'll transfer right into this. Somehow your face went away because this picture's fucking huge. Holy shit.
But
I'll let you fire away here.
It to me is, so I'm very split on the opening game because the Ravens play well against good teams in the regular season. So like I can see it being a win. However, I can also see them kind of like getting too like hyped up and put too much on this game, and then it just kind of like falls flat, because I've seen that happen plenty of times with them. The thing that pisses me off about this whole schedule in general is week 15, 16, 17, because they have 3 games in 10 days. Whoever the fuck scheduled 3 games in 10 days to pretty much finish out the season is an asshat. Like,
agreed.
And the fact that, okay, the Giants, neither here nor there. Whether the Steelers are the worst team in the league or the best team in the league, the Ravens versus Steelers games can go literally any way. And the last, I'd say 5-6 seasons, it has not gone the way of the Ravens, even with the Steelers not making the playoffs or making the playoffs. And Lamar Jackson's record against the Steelers, also not good. So you have that, and then that leads into a Christmas Day game against Houston, who improved and was already good last season. And then to top things off, you got to go into week 18 and play fucking Cleveland, which they don't know if, that's going to be a super meaningful game or not. So I hate the last 4 games of this fucking schedule. But so my thing with the W's and L's that you put up here, I do think they'll beat the Bengals twice. They're going to at least split the Steelers games.
Okay. See, but this is why I was doing, like, I put mine up because you know your team a hell of a lot better than me, and I can only look from the outside, and like I know, like, I think you and I would both agree the Ravens are the better team than the Steelers. But This is what you were saying on the Eagles one, is divisional games are always just different. They're built different for a reason, and that rivalry is a special one. So
yeah. Like I said, like, I don't know if it's just Tomlin's game plan or just Lamar just not doing well against them, but Lamar just has not played well against the Steelers. And like, I think the last 2 years, the Ravens are 0-4 against the Steelers in the regular season. So
okay, then you know what? I'll fully take that. Like, glad I put mine on the screen because I like, you know what I mean? Because if that's how it goes again, I mean that's crazy to me. Because especially like with what the what the Steelers are working with at QB, that just tells you how insanely built their defense is to be able to hold teams like the Ravens to a low enough amount of points to actually beat them. So,
yeah. And I mean, it sucks. Honestly, it sucks to be Lamar in the AFC North because you have to go against TJ Watt and Myles Garrett 4 times a season.
Yep.
So it sucks for sure. I do like, so my thing with the first 4 weeks, I think the Raiders are a win, the Bills are a win. I probably have the Cowboys as a win, but the Chiefs as a loss. I do think they'll come out and lose that first game.
I just saw 2 road games, and one of them had to be an L. And my hope, it doesn't have to be, but like, I want them to beat the Chiefs just for that like sense of we can beat them,
right?
And I think they will play a lot more like solid football. The Dallas one, it's because no one knows what Dallas is going to look like. We're assuming they're going to be worse.
For sure.
But, like, that is not an easy stadium to play in. It just isn't. Like, credit to them. Their fan base does, like, that energy that they have down there. It's solid. But yeah, I think I could agree with that. I think they could beat Dallas for sure, and the Chiefs game should be a toss-up because there's a reason that was the AFC Championship. You know what I mean? So
Right. And I do agree that those two are the ones that are most likely to be one of the losses in that first four. The next four, yeah, the Bengals, again, a lot of question marks. I wouldn't be surprised if they did split the Bengals series too, but that's just going to be something we have to wait for. The Ravens usually destroy the Washington every time.
Yeah.
That's the whole battle of the Beltway type of thing. So, or maybe not Beltway, but whatever it's called.
I think that's it. Yeah, the
yeah,
belt.
sounded-
That's what it is in baseball. Washington and Baltimore in baseball is the Beltway series. So
Yeah. Tampa Bay, while they're decent, I just think the Ravens defense would just neutralize everything that Tampa Bay does well. So I just like the matchup there. The Browns, I agree, that one probably is a loss. They'll definitely split with Cleveland too. Like the AFC North, I think is going to be a bunch of splits for the whole division, and it'll probably end up having to use some sort of tiebreaker. Denver sucks. Agree with the win there. And then the Chargers, I feel like they're not going to be good at all.
I think, well, that I'm like, it's the Harbaugh Bowl, which is cool that we're having that again in the NFL. I like that, but they cannot be what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I just genuinely think the Ravens are just like, they're still as good as they were. And then their run game should be a lot like stronger now.
Right.
So yeah, they should clean house with that. And I think they beat Philly. I think Lamar and Hurts' first matchup, I think it's in Baltimore. And I have to just take that, you know what I mean? I have to take that into account. Like,
true. If
this was in Philly, I'd give it the E. I think it literally is going to be what stadium they play in that determines that. And so since it's home for Baltimore, I think, but this is literally like, we're predicting this in fucking May.
Yeah.
We have to literally see who gets hurt, who actually makes rosters, like, but that's why we're doing it now though, because we can do this again in like August when we know what the rosters are.
Right.
And we can go off that.
Yeah. I mean, I see them somewhere around like 12-5 to like 14-3.
Okay.
Around that vicinity.
I think they are a good enough team to have 15 wins. I will say that. Like,
if everything breaks right, I agree.
Yeah, because it literally, like, the Steelers are such a coin flip. If they could actually look good on offense, like, there is a chance of that.
True.
You know, like, you know what I mean? Like, you never know. Obviously, they got Matt Canada's bum ass out of there, so their offense will probably actually be something halfway decent for once. But they need to run it well.
Exactly.
I think, what else did we even have left?
We had ranking the best signings, but I feel like we should save that so that we could actually like talk about it more in depth.
Yeah,
because I don't have that much time. So
you know what the only quick one we had left was maybe the Falcons.
Yep, we can finish on that.
Okay. I'll share their depth chart. Because that is an easy thing to have in the background here.
Everyone watching and listening is very well aware at this point of the Michael Penix Jr. pick, and everyone just kind of wondering what exactly is going on in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And can it work? I mean, maybe.
So I'm going to highlight their general manager here. So his name's Terry Fontenot, and his name, you can know it right now, and give it 2 years, you probably won't ever hear it again. So I don't understand. Like, I get you need to, like, look to the future as a franchise, always. Every franchise needs to have that mindset of, like, what do we have now? Let's make what we have now succeed, and then look to the future to make sure that we can transition smoothly into the next, like, generation and continue success.
Right.
The Falcons have been recovering from the 2016 Super Bowl loss basically this whole time, and they still clearly, I don't think they have, as like, they haven't settled their feet again. So You bring in Kirk Cousins because you have offensive weapons. That I will say they have in droves. Like the running game with the duo of Bijan and Tyler Allgeier is such a good duo. We've seen that succeed. I think their O-line is okay. Kyle Pitts needs to, like, he hasn't had a good QB yet, in my opinion. Like, so there's a chance now that he can elevate his game. I think their new wide receiver trio that I can maybe try and highlight here. It probably won't work, but we got obviously Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Rondale Moore. That is a very versatile trio. You have a deep threat, you have a size guy that's good at a lot of things, and then Mooney is just an overall solid receiver. Offensively, they have so much potential, and they could have added to it and made it even better. And they took Michael Penix at literally 8th overall. It's not even that they took Penix, it's when they took him. Like, if they took him mid-second, no one would give a shit. Right. They'd get a little heat the same way the Eagles did when we took Hurts. But it's like you took this guy like 50 spots before his value. And you just signed Cousins, and the reason Cousins didn't want to re-sign with Minnesota is they said they were going to draft a QB, and then you did that shit to him. Like, it's just, and completely behind his back.
And only told him right before you picked him.
Yeah. So he's just like, brother, what are we doing? And, like, I love Michael Penix. I was one of the, like, I love him. I think he's going to be fine in the NFL. I genuinely do. His arm talent is great. And now he gets to develop. But then you think about what Fontenot said in that post-draft press conference. You are not sitting an 8th overall pick for 4 to 5 years, you absolute dipshit. No, you're not. This is not Aaron Rodgers. You're like, yes, that turned out pretty well. You're not going to repeat that. No one is.
But also, like,
the
difference with Aaron Rodgers is he was behind, like, a great quarterback.
One of the greatest of all time.
Exactly. And this is no disrespect to Kirk Cousins because he's a fine quarterback, but he's not a prime Brett Favre.
No. Like, if you look down the line, it's like, will Kirk Cousins make the Hall of Fame? No.
No.
In my opinion, no.
Also, Rodgers was a 24th overall pick.
Yeah, he fell in the draft, and the Packers saw him fall and said, you know what? Like, that's where it made sense, right? Because you go, okay, Brett Favre is not a spring chicken anymore. He's been in the league for a fucking minute. And, like, I get Cousins has too, but it's like if the Vikings were picking late in the first.
That's one thing.
You know, like the Falcons were picking late in the first. They're like in the late 20s. You'd go, okay, maybe you then reach.
Right.
Maybe then you go, okay, QB of the future, let's get him now because for some reason he's there. The fact that Penix goes off the board and the other teams that were QB needy just kind of sat there, you know what I mean, and got the guys they were going to take anyway. No one was going to take Penix. The Raiders were the only threat to maybe at 13. You know what I mean? Like, if the Falcons had passed on Penix at 8, the only team I think would have maybe considered it was the Raiders at 13. And after the Raiders, nobody was going to take him for the rest of the first round. Like, they had needs that were still on the board, and players that fit those needs were still available. So that's why it was such a head scratcher, because you just go like, Carolina is in this rebuild that seems like it's never going to end. The Saints are in this awkward position of having absolutely no idea who their QB of the future is whatsoever. Like, we know it's not Derek Carr. Jameis Winston is now signed elsewhere. It's just, they had this and the Falcons are probably the best team down there minus the Bucs. Like, those two teams should be vying for the throne in the South this year. But they had this chance to just solidify this excellent offense for the foreseeable future.
Right.
Like, they could have just shocked the whole fucking universe and been like, let's take Roma Dunze. Let's take let's take like an edge. Let's take an edge rusher. Let's be the first team to take a defensive player, so we can be a balanced team. Because even when you look,
Kirk Cousins even more and get an offensive lineman.
yeah, like there were all of these options, and that's why it's just like this is one of those we had to at least touch on for a moment, because very rarely, if like genuinely, very rarely does a draft pick actually just break everyone's brain. Everyone unanimously. Not a single person can sit back and go, that made sense. Not one. And
Exactly.
And especially given the position that they are in to actually compete genuinely for first in that division. Like the Bucks were like what? They were like 9-8 last year and won the division.
Something like that, yeah.
And that's why it's just like you guys were in a rebuild. You've been fighting to be successful again for like 8 seasons. You go out and you sign Cousins to this big deal, even though he's an older guy coming off a really bad injury. So you don't know what he's going to look like. And maybe that's like 5% of why you take Penix, but the other 95% of it just doesn't make sense. And I think maybe in 5 years, this pick seems okay, but right now, holy moly, does it not.
And if your goal is to pick Penix, why not just trade back?
Exactly. Like, you could have acquired draft capital. You could have acquired a player. Like, all of these options were just, they were laid out on the table in front of you.
And then if you really wanted a quarterback to wait 4 years, you could have taken Spencer Rattler in like the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah. And I'll say this right now. Spencer Rattler is not horrible. He belonged late because there's a reason you go from Oklahoma to South Carolina. He got dethroned by Caleb Williams. And we know what Caleb Williams is. He went 1 overall. Like, he was special. So I get it. But then we saw Spencer Rattler still look pretty good in what we agreed on a previous podcast was like the worst O-line in college. And this is where I look at the Saints. I'm like, the Saints used their brain and they're in your division. They were like, we don't need to do this crazy shit. What did we do in the first round? We drafted O-line because we understand that if the O-line sucks, it does not matter who you put behind them. It just doesn't. And
can learn that from the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Like, it's just mind-boggling. And it's a shame, too, because when the Falcons are good, the NFL is better off for it. Yeah. That is a hungry fan base that has had some players to get behind. Like, you had Primetime, you had Mike Vick, Julio, Roddy White, Warwick Dunn for that bit he was there. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's easy.
I mean, they were in a Super Bowl not that long ago.
Yeah. And in the early 2000s, we're always competitive.
Yep.
Like, they need that. Like, that is such a big market, just for sports in general. Obviously, hockey being the only one that's not, but like, the Hawks are a beloved team to them. The Braves obviously are good every year, and if the Falcons become good every year, like, that's good for sports.
Yep.
This kind of attention is not. So, it's a shame because I do still think the Falcons will win that division by like a game. But they could have created a something that kept them at that level for longer. Because I think I want to believe Penix will get a fair shot. But if you're really going to sit here and tell me this guy is going to sit behind Cousins and learn for the duration of his rookie contract, you're bullshitting me.
Yeah.
That's why it hurts.
Then you're going to re-sign him to an extension to some crazy amount of money without even seeing him play a game?
Exactly.
That doesn't sound smart either.
But that's why this needed to be a subject, because it's like, I don't hate their roster.
Right.
But you could have taken
a lot of areas.
Yeah. But you could have taken a number 1 corner. You could have been the first team that you could have taken Terrion Arnold, Quinion Mitchell, like that you had, they were all there because everybody was going offense. Like, you could have been that team that got one of these like clear number 1s at their position.
Thousands.
And at the 8th overall pick, you took like QB 6 in the draft based on what all the scouts, like, it's crazy. And I'm going to cheer for Michael Penix. I'm going to cheer my ass off for him forever because I want to see him like overcome this position he was put in against his will. Like he's not going to ask for all the weight on his shoulders. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's going to be there now. So.
And I like how they signed another quarterback from free agency.
I know. I'm like, you didn't need John Paddock. Okay.
No. Literally unnecessary.
From Illinois. Like you didn't need that. But here we are.
Yeah. I'm just curious to see when the season starts and how everything finally plays out. Because I need to see how this finally works. But
I agree.
Yeah. Next week, we will get into the ranking the off-season editions. I will be out from Friday through Monday, so probably be after Monday when we do our next episode. But for those watching on YouTube, if you liked what you saw, please drop a like, subscribe, hit the bell below. It lets you know when we go live. Usually go live once a week with our episodes, and we have a bunch of videos dropping. Tom's been doing his NFL draft review series. We're going to have other draft things going on too with the NBA draft coming up. Might have some NHL draft stuff. We'll probably have baseball videos at some point too once that becomes really the only sport going on other than that and the WNBA. So we'll have some things around those as well. If you just want to listen to the audio version of the podcast, we are everywhere you get those too. Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. So make sure you check us out there, rate, review, and subscribe. That helps get our name out to everybody. And we appreciate everyone watching.
Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you again very soon, guys.
Yes.
Peace.
Catch you guys next week. Peace.